At the last Passover Christ spent with his disciples just before his crucifixion, Jesus reassured them with these words, "Do not let your heart be troubled. Believe in God. Believe also in me. In my Father's house are many dwelling places. If it were not so, I would have told you. For I go to prepare a place for you, and if I go and prepare a place for you, I will come again and receive you to myself, that where I am, there you may be also." This passage contains the promise that Christ will return to gather all true believers to himself. This coming for believers is for the purpose of taking them to the place where Jesus was going, to heaven. Christ would come and take believers to heaven, not back to earth. Nothing is revealed about the time or the circumstances of this coming, only the fact that there will be a coming of the Messiah for all believers. Post-tribulationism teaches that the church meets the Lord in the air and immediately returns with him to earth. But that is not the promise here. Rather, it is this: Christ is coming to take his church to heaven so that wherever he is, the church will be also. Paul the Apostle reveals the program of the rapture in 1 Thessalonians chapter 4. The church in Thessalonica raised a question: do the believers who have died miss out on the benefits of the rapture? Paul answers them, "But we do not want you to be uninformed, brethren, about those who are asleep, so that you will not grieve as do the rest who have no hope. For if we believe that Jesus died and rose again, even so God will bring with him those who have fallen asleep in Jesus. For this we say to you by the word of the Lord, that we who are alive and remain unto the coming of the Lord will not precede those who have fallen asleep. For the Lord himself will descend from heaven with a shout, with the voice of the archangel, and with the trumpet of God, and the dead in Christ will rise first. Then we who are alive and remain will be caught up together with them in the clouds to meet the Lord in the air, and so shall we ever be with the Lord. Therefore comfort one another with these words." The living believers of Thessalonica understood there was a rapture to come, but they did not understand how believers who had died would be included. However, it is important to understand that these verses do not teach soul sleep. In reference to the death of believers, Paul used the term sleep as a synonym for death, which is used only for believers, never to describe deceased unbelievers. Just as normal sleep is a temporary suspension of physical activity without the suspension of mental activity, so death is a temporary suspension of activity until one awakens at the resurrection. At some point in the future, the Messiah will come out of the heaven of heavens and descend into the atmospheric heavens of the earth with a shout. The Greek translation here is that of a military leader who comes out of his chief commander's tent and issues a command. One day the chief commander, Jesus Christ, will come out of his heavenly tent and give the command, a shout, for the resurrection and translation of the true church. This sudden command includes the voice of the archangel. Angels are often used to set God's plan into motion. Michael, the archangel, will be used in this way regarding the rapture of the church. Jesus Christ gives the command or shout for the program of the rapture to begin. It is Michael's task to set things into motion by repeating this command. The shout and the voice of the archangel are accompanied with the trump of God. In Jewish history, the sound of the trumpet was used both as a summons to battle and to worship. As Michael repeats the command, the trumpet sounds. This triggers the rapture. The trumpet is the summons that puts the plan into motion. The dead in Christ shall rise first. This expression, "in Christ," limits the resurrection at the rapture to those who are true believers. Old Testament saints will be resurrected at a later point in God's prophetic program. The resurrection of dead saints is immediately followed by the translation of living saints. Without exception, every believer will be removed from the earth and will be united with the Lord in the heavens. The Greek word used here is harpazo and means to be caught up. The source of the English term rapture comes from rapturo, a Latin source equivalent to the Greek term harpazo. Living believers will be caught up or raptured with the resurrected saints. The next stage is to meet the Lord in the air, and so shall we ever be with the Lord. This comes with the guarantee that once believers have been united with Jesus in the air, they will always remain with Him, returning with Christ to heaven and fulfilling the promises made by Christ at the Last Supper.